let's start. Um, good morning, afternoon, evening to those who joined us. Thank you very much for your time. Today we're going to talk about international schools to go get ahead before registration opens. My name is Gibbesch. I'm the founder of Gibbesch Consulting GmbH, which is a boutique relocation agency, and we're helping individuals and families to move to Germany, all over Germany. And we provide consulting regarding residence permits and, of course, relocation prep from the moment that you're still in your home country to the bureaucratic stuff that you have to do in Germany. With me today is Dr. Anna Gurevich, who would introduce herself in a moment, and we are very lucky to have her as as a relocation consultant. And after she introduces herself, then I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're going to have today, and then we dive in. So, Anna, please.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. I'm very glad to be here. My name is Dr. Anna Gurevich. I'm a linguist, I'm a researcher, I'm a parent. I lived 15 years in China, where I did my research on multilingual children and how they learn how to read and write. And I worked with multilingual families and helped them navigate kind of complex educational decisions, especially in the international context, like Germany. Yeah, and I'm really glad you're here, because if you're watching this, you are probably thinking about your child's future and making decisions that can feel big, complex, and sometimes overwhelming. And I want to help make that process feel a little lighter and more strategic. That's why we're here.
Well said. Well said. So today we're going to talk about a few things. First of all, understanding international schools, what sets them apart from the German system. We're going to talk about internationals, the different types of internationals, or what people call internationals, and we talk a little bit about the public system in Germany. We're going to talk about choosing the right school, how to find the best fit for your child's needs. We're going to talk about the admissions process, required documents, deadlines, and how the process works, and stand out in the application process, insider tips to strengthen your application, and of course, Q&A. So I would be happy if you can write your questions in the chat, and we would try to answer, because we have, if we can, we integrate it into the sections that we have. If not, we answer at the end. We do today a lot of general explanations, and if you are interested in more specific consultations, so we would be more than happy to schedule a time and to work on things together. So let's dive in. This is one of my favorite topics, international schools, because international schools is seen by people as everything that is not German speaking is international. If they have two languages, German, Polish, German, English, German, Russian, so it means that they're also international. It is not the case. So we separate these schools, this whole section of not public German system, into a few sections. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the public. So we have really international schools that work according to the IB curriculum, which Anna will explain later. And then we have they work, since it's an international IB, then everybody can have the same system. And if you studied in international school according to IB in Thailand, for example, and you're coming to Germany and you apply to an international school, you basically just came to the next day in your studies. It's not something that you miss. You don't have to complete any kind of courses or something like that. In addition, there are the private. Private schools are obviously you have to pay for. It's not funded by the state, and they are bilingual in most cases. In the younger classes or kindergarten, which we call kita, it doesn't really matter if you're coming with the language or not. They have, they know, they're very trained to deal with the non-language issue. So it's not a problem. In higher classes, it becomes a problem because if you have bilingual school for English and German, for example, I'll give an example of JFK in Berlin. They're very American German community, and if you don't speak at least one of the languages, so you would have problem in younger classes, younger ages, and definitely you're gonna have a problem when you're in middle school to high school. And then we have the public. And also in public system, you have bilingual schools, which are free from tuition according to free education law here. There are very, very few of these, so they're very unicorns, I would say. So you have to search very carefully the city that you want to move to. There are a few in Berlin. In Munich, there is one or two. Hamburg, one. Potsdam, none. So there are a few. It's hard to find. The public school in Germany is also well trained to deal with new immigrants, newcomers that don't speak German. So if you intend to integrate in the German life, in the mentality, in the society, so sometimes it might be a good solution to actually consider your child to a public education, which is not that bad at all. But there is a requirement of German, and you have a welcome class that they teach you German. And by that, these are the types. Anna, do you have anything to add to this?
No, it's quite a complete and comprehensive yeah, overview
Okay.
of the types of school.
So I also would be happy, by the way, from the participants for the ages of your children. That would be nice to know, and we also can match our answers and guidance accordingly. So Anna, let's talk a little bit about choosing the right school.
Yeah.
What do you suggest to parents?
Yeah, let's talk about how to find the right fit for your child. And I want to start with the questions that I hear most often from parents. What's the best school? But that's the wrong question. A better question is, what does my child need to thrive right now at this point in their life, and which schools support that? Because many parents assume that all international schools are all alike. They're not. The differences in pedagogy, curriculum, and expectations can be huge. So I would love you to take a moment and kind of reflect about your own child. What's the one thing that they need every day to feel confident and supported at school? Is it a predictable routine? Is it creative expression? Is it gentle teachers? Is it play-based learning? Those are a lot of things to consider for your children. There's no one size fits all here. The right school is the one that aligns with your child's specific needs, your family's values, and kind of your long-term plans. And I want to break it down into 3 key areas to think about. The first one to think about is your child's own profile. And I would start by asking, what does my child need to thrive? And we know every child has a unique learning style. Some are very naturally curious. Some need more structure. Some love social interactions and others feel overstimulated in big classrooms. Maybe your child needs extra language support. Maybe they have dyslexia and they need support in that. Maybe they're highly gifted in music or STEM. So where do you funnel that? Are they independent? Do they seek support and guidance every day? You know, introverted, sensitive, high energy, easy bored. Are they multilingual? Can they advocate for their own needs in the classroom? Do they need support in German or English? Not all schools provide the type of support that is unique to your child. And when you skip this reflection and focus only on the reputation of the school or the convenience because it's close to your home, I kind of often see mismatches later. Kids feel anxious or bored or not seen. But a good fit can bring out your child's confidence and joy of learning, and we want that. And the second point to think about is the school's philosophy, the environment, right? Because every school has its own personality. Some are inquiry-based, like IB. I'll talk about this in a second. And others follow a more traditional model. Most of the German schools follow more traditional models. Some offer bilingual immersion, holistic development, etc., etc. You need to know these things. The IB system, I'll just talk briefly about this. It's a globally recognized educational framework, and they emphasize critical thinking. They are inquiry-based learning, meaning that the children, they lead the learning, they do the research. They don't copy from the blackboard and blindly answer questions. They think about it. They are global citizen in the making. It's known for encouraging students to make connections across subjects. It's not just geography, it's geography and history together, and also how does that connect to immigration and math. Yeah, it's learning to real world contexts. I want to say about the IB diploma, which happens in high school, it's especially rigorous and it's hard. And it's known in universities worldwide, meaning that children that graduate from an IB diploma are often exempt from maybe the first year, the freshman year, because they did the research already on a level of a university. But it's also very hard to do, and they need a lot of support. So, right, it's important to know the school's culture. Is it a competitive school? Is it nurturing? Is it flexible? Do they celebrate individuality, or they expect the children to conform and to stand in line with everyone else? How do they support emotional well-being of the children? You see, it's not just practical fit. Where is it? Location, schedule, after-school care, fees. It's a lot of things to consider. I once worked with a family with a child who was very creative and very, very sensitive. And they applied to a highly academic school known for rigor. And the trial day, the kid was feeling overwhelmed and really unseen. So changed directions, and the right school gave them the space to grow. The third point to think about is kind of your family's vision. What do you imagine your child to be in 3 years, in 5 years, even 10 years from now? Are you going to stay in Berlin long term? Are you likely to move again? Do you want to prepare your child for university in Europe or the US, or maybe back in your home country somewhere else? Because curriculum decisions now can open up or limit future options. And some families prioritize that flexibility and they go for international schools. Others want to integrate more into Germany and in the German system. There's no wrong answer here. Yeah, it's all about being intentional with your choices, right? So you kind of want to step back and think, what's the bigger picture here for us as a family? And how can I choose a school that can be a partner in that journey? Because we want that. We want a partner, right? So to wrap this section up, finding the right school for you, it's not just choosing the best from a list. It's about creating this alignment between your child, the school, your family goals, right? And a lot of the times, parents already have a sense what's right, but they need help putting that into a clear plan or understanding how different schools frame their strengths. Yeah, and this brings me to the next part about navigating the actual application process once you already narrowed down a few choices.
Before that, I would like to add a few more factors that might impact families' choice of where to send the kids to. So first of all, most of the international schools are working on the third system, which means third Germans, third English native speakers, which is mostly Americans, Canadians, British, Australians, New Zealand, etc. And the rest are the last third. So you have to also take this under consideration, and we're going to talk about the solution for this as the standout in your application, but this is something that you have to consider. Also, you have to, I know it's not very popular to say, but in many schools, there are opportunities for networking for the parents. That the parents have some kind of business or a company, and they might find more business opportunities in networking with the parents of the kids who are already in the school. So this is also a factor that might be relevant to you or other families. Fees. Fees is very, very important. Some of the international schools are very expensive. I can give, for example, international school in Munich. There are about 24,000 a year per child. BBIS, that is about 20 something a year per child. Some of the internationals have sibling discount, some not. Some say that they have and they don't give it, or don't offer it, and you have to specifically ask. So this is something also to consider. And I have to say that there is an actual list of which international school is the best in Germany. And in first place, most times, is International School in Munich, of Munich. And second after that is BBAS, Berlin-Brandenburg International School. There is more in Brandenburg than in Berlin, but is considered to be the second here. And the last thing that I want to bring up, well, two more things. The curriculum, as we said, it can be also according to IB, but it can also be in international schools with the local curriculum, like Berlin, Hamburg. In Frankfurt, for example, it's the Hessen curriculum. Munich is Bayern. So you have to also consider that. These are schools that usually they ask for a better level of German. And it doesn't matter that what they call is Abitur, is the exams at the end of high school. It doesn't matter if your child is there or not, but the whole direction that they put you through from Kita to high school is the same method that they educate everybody. So it means that you have to take it under consideration, even when you put your kid in the Kita. What do you want to do afterwards? So this is also something to consider. And the last thing that I want to bring up before we go to the admissions process is the kind of like exams and trial period that that schools give. It's very common in international schools that they ask you to do exams, either in person or online, but not very common today. So you actually have to go to the school, bring the kids, mostly with middle school and up. And they, in some schools, it's even 3 days, like British school or Swiss around Germany. You have to bring the kids for 3 days. They do oral exams, they do written exams, and they also try, to see how the kid is integrating or trying to integrate into the society. Each school has different requirements for the tests, so you have to understand. And sometimes you have to do the test in different schools if you apply to different schools. And by that, I bring it to admissions process. So Anna, when do we start the process?
Yes, good, very, very good question. Yeah, let's start by even thinking what you just said about the trials. It is part of the admission process. It's good to know about it, and it's good to be prepared. So let's say you found 2, 3 schools you like, they're a good match. What now, right? Here's where things get confusing because each school may have its own system and even language and timeline and even criteria. So let's walk through the process with admissions. And the first one is timeline. They can be very tight and they can be uneven. Some international schools in Berlin operate, not just Berlin, operate on rolling admissions. So they accept kids throughout the year. But others have firm deadlines once a year. For example, school can start accepting applications in August or the following August. They start in August. It's important to say that, the earlier the better. Others only begin interviewing in April, in spring. If you're applying mid-year, which is very common for expat families, so availability can become scarce, and it can depend on if there's an open space suddenly because somebody canceled. So it's very important to research early, to plan as early as possible, and track what is needed for each school. I would recommend creating a simple comparison table, deadlines, documents, requirements. If that sounds overwhelming, we can help with that. So that's the timeline. What about all the application materials, right? It's not just bureaucracy. Each international school has its own admission requirements. Of course, there are some common elements. Yes, you will be asked for application forms. Some do it online. Some you need to actually write it and send it to them. You'll be asked for ID copies, your own statements, and then possible assessments. Maybe it's a language proficiency test or trial days. Maybe it's interviews with the parents or the children. Some of them agree to do it online. Some of them require to be on site and see the parents and the children. They will ask for school reports. We worked with a family from a school that didn't give school reports. They were giving oral reports. But it doesn't work in international school. And it's not just because they want to see grades. They want to see some kind of a evaluation about the child. Where are they now? What have they been doing? What are their strengths? What can we help them with? So this is something I kind of want to emphasize. Admissions is not about just ticking boxes, because the way you frame your child in the application, it matters. You want to tell a good story. If you really want your child to get a spot in a school, your application needs to be strong. There's a better way to do that.
Before you jump to that, Yes, I think that it's worth talking. We talked about deadlines for application. There are also deadlines for predicted times for answers. So it's something, if you're not mid-year and then you're going on waiting lists, that I'm going to say a few words about the waiting list in a moment. The answer time, if you apply, let's say, on time, which is by November, sometimes December, from August usually, then the answer should be at about January, February mostly, and then they might invite you for the trial days. So this is really important to know. If they have everything, it's important to know. The waiting list. Waiting list is a real issue for people because usually the first answer of the school, if you applied mid-year or that you applied that you want to move mid-year, is, yeah, we put you on the waiting list. So it's a little bit frustrating, and sometimes it's worth kind of like checking in a little bit, gently, checking in with the admissions team. They might not like it, so you have to be very gentle. But check your place every now and then in the waiting list to see if you can start. Most international schools start the year in August, so mid-August or beginning of September. So you have to be aware of where the situation is if you're on a waiting list. And Anna, you mentioned the family that didn't have report cards. And this is something that is very important. It's usually from Montessori school or other democratic and open, that they don't have report cards. And it's very complicated how they evaluate the child. So you have to find a way around it in order to show evaluation and to show to the admissions team what your kid is really like. So this is something that is important. There were questions here a little bit about mid-year. I hope that we answered, because mid-year is going to be complicated. And at the end, after we finish all the things, I'm going to talk about specifically about different age groups, the kita, the middle school, elementary school and middle school, and high school. They have different emphasis, so we'll do that.
I
Yes.
just want to add regarding the last thing that I want to say regarding the admissions and all the application. Schools are not just assessing if your child meets the basic requirements. They're asking, will this child thrive here? Are you a good fit for this school? It's especially true for IB or bilingual schools. They're not just placing your child for convenience. And this application is important. There's a good way to craft it, and we help craft applications that can feel honest and aligned and not overly formal, but not too casual. There's a subtle but important skill there. I also want to add about interviews and trial days, that they are the soft side of admissions, right? And it really helps to know about these things to avoid surprises and be prepared. You got to be prepared for trial days. The children are observed informally and formally. Many international schools include a family interview, right? It can feel unpredictable, but it's where human connection matters most. The goal of these meetings is to get a sense of your child's personality, their readiness, how they respond to a school environment. And schools are also looking how you, as parents, engage with openness, being real, curiosity. There's no script here. There's no right way. But there are ways to prepare your child and yourself. So when you show up with clarity and calm, right? And it's good to be prepared for these long wait lists, especially for the early years. Prepared for differences in approach. Some schools will speak mostly English and others expect stronger German skills, especially in the upper elementary and upper. In general, being prepared helps you stay calm and flexible. And this admission process is not just about getting in, it's about building a relationship with the school. And it's not always easy to navigate, especially when you're coming from another system or moving countries. But it is manageable with the right guidance. That's why we offer personal consultations.
So let's give a few tips about how to navigate and how to stand out. Yes, the right documents always help, but they make you like all the rest. If you're not Germans and you're not English native speakers, but you speak English at home or not, you have to make sure that the children, let's say, they know how to write in English. If there's also a requirement of German, if they know how to write in German. Now, not only to speak, because when I say write, I mean academic level. It means that if the child knows to describe something, that's okay in Kita level, and or maybe younger classes, the first, second, third, but after that, they would expect the children to actually know. Yes, they have assistance, but the more you show that the child is able before entering the school, the better. In interviews, for example, let the children talk. Let them show their personality. Yes, they might be shy, but that's also part of the personality. And like Anna said, make them feel comfortable. So it's also to show your personality as a parent. How do you make the child, how do you deal with the shyness? How do you know, how do you deal with situations? So this is something that I also looking at.
And there are, of course, ways to prepare kids for these awkward interviews. Sometimes they are online, they're going to talk with a stranger. You can prepare them. There are ways to prepare them, to explain exactly what is expected, why we are having this conversation, what's a good thing to say. And schools really like it when children ask questions, when they show curiosity, when they show something like, hey, do you have this subject? Because I'm really interested in, I don't know, dance or art of some sort. So it's good to talk to them in advance, prepare them, prepare yourself. This is what's going to happen. What are you interested in to know from this school?
Yes, also think what makes your child special. Not as my child is special no matter what sense, but objectively, what is special? So maybe to ask people who know the children, no matter the age, what is special about them, about the children, and then to build the application around this if possible. So this is something that is really, really important to the admissions team. So these are things. Anna, would you like to give another one just to throw out there for the people?
I mean, what makes special examples would be a hobby, or maybe they are helping out in the community, or I'm sure every child has their own special and interesting thing, and the tip here is to highlight it, is to kind of focus around that.
Yeah, a little bit reminding of college application, I would say.
Yeah, even if they are 6.
Yes, definitely. It sounds like put all the extracurricular, and then show us how many we have, and yet not to tick boxes. So it's a challenge. So it's something that we are happy to help with. if you don't have any more tips right now to give, so I would be happy to discuss, first of all, to clear out the way for the question in Munich, MIS, BIS, MIS is the best. It's not a question. Regarding level, quality, teachers, children, families, and you send them if you can afford that. And to afford is not necessarily shows on the quality of the people, of the families, of the children. But sometimes, and I found it, and I saw this in some of our families, they're willing to pay for the school and save in other places. So it's something that, you know, the parents should factor. If you have a few kids, we have a family with three teenagers that got accepted to BBIS, for example. It's very, very expensive. And they had to also pay for assistance for one of the kids who doesn't speak English very well, with learning disabilities. So you have to take this under account. Sometimes the money doesn't apply about the quality. In the case of MIS, it is. But I can tell you also that the international school in Hamburg International School is very, very good. In Berlin, there are a few. In Düsseldorf, there are some places, I can tell in Munich, for example, Bayern Munich in Augsburg is very popular in good school, international school. So it's something that should be under consideration. I would go for the Kita, just to say a few things. For kindergarten children, it's much easier, or it seems much easier, but it's not really. Yes, application should be very good. It should be good application, stand out, everything. And it's hard sometimes because the waiting list for this age is not becoming better year after year. So you have to really take notes of when you applied, if you got an answer, and then to check again and again, because kindergartens are usually fuller than the rest of the school. And that's because newcomers come with young children, and they, you know, they have their own needs. And then usually, like we talked about the third system, so they might take their kids out in when they go out to gymnasium, which can be 5th or 8th grade, or 7th grade, sorry. And then to the gymnasium, it means it's usually the German part of the third system that they actually came to international schools to have the English of their children perfect. And then they go to the German gymnasium, and then they apply there. Which means basically that these are the grades that usually have more spots, because a few of the Germans at least leave the school. So this is an opportunity. With the Kita kids, you have to think in mind they already in young age educate them for individual and be, you know, more individual oriented, independence. I would say it's a little bit like the public system that they do this, but when they do this in German, it's different. And you don't know the language, it's different when you don't know, when you know the language, and then you do it in your time. Yes. I thought you want to say about middle school, elementary school, and middle school. So these are also ages that they are very forgiving language-wise. Either it's English or German if you need in bilingual international schools. So this is something that is extremely important to follow, what the language requirement, because in some schools, without any kind of certificates of either language, even before their own tests, they would ask you for a language certificate. So it's something that is really important. Don't write for the child. Make it, you know, the one thing that you shouldn't do on an application is to lie. about the level of the child, maybe make it a little bit prettier, but not to extremely make it rainbows and butterflies, because they would find out, and they cannot prepare. If they think that everything is okay, they wouldn't be prepared to accept your child without the support that they need. And then we get to high school. And high school is 9, 10, 11, 12. In high schools that they have combination with the German Abitur, either state, it doesn't matter. German level, extremely important. Someone mentioned here B1, if it's enough, they might agree. Take into consideration that you might have to strengthen the German if you're going to international bilingual or any bilingual school. In schools that they have IB, the IB curriculum is built from a specific program that the 9th and 10th grade have, and then they go to they continue another program that cannot be reached without the 9th and 10th. So if you come directly to the 11th grade, you have to make sure that you answer the requirements of the 11th grade. It's very rare, not impossible, but it's very rare that the 11th and 12th grade, it's possible to enter without any hardship. It's usually for kids that are coming from international school with IB. But otherwise, it would be you have to highlight and really convince the team, the admissions team or the school team, that your kids can pass the challenge that you have. So this is something that is very important. I do have to say also,
I want to add that it's quite common here to repeat a class, repeat a grade, right? There was a question about the 11th grade, and well, they are English speaking, so it is easier for them, but it is quite common for kids to stay another year or go a grade lower to then cover the IB curriculum if there are no available spots in that school, the particular school you're looking for. It's even, in most cases, it's a good thing for the kids because
I definitely agree.
they, especially moving from other countries, from different systems, they will be a bit older from the rest of the class, which means they will be maybe more mature, emotionally mature. They will be more available to deal with the academic stuff. They get just a bit more time, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that definitely you raised a good point that I was actually about to raise myself. To repeat class is not a bad thing. It's very common in Germany in general, but in international school, if a kid doesn't come from a similar system, it would be for the benefit of the child, no less as for the school. So, and I know parents might seem, okay, they want, they say that the level of my child, whom I thought is extremely smart and amazing, in the old high school or school, and now they're saying he's not academically strong enough to deal with the 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, which is damaging the ego a little bit, I guess. But sometimes you have to put the ego aside and listen to the school, because usually they don't do it because they want to hurt someone. They're realistic and they need kids to keep up with the materials, and if they are not able to provide the same level to all of the kids, so that's a real problem for the teacher, for the class, and for the children themselves. I think that answers. What if we move mid-year? I think that we covered that. If we decide we need to live in the middle of the school year and cannot enroll in IB school until fall 2026, they are statutorily required to enroll in something. Okay. It's the age 16. I know some say it's 18. In general, it's the age of 16. After that, they can be in school if the school agrees. So there's a process that you have to go through in order to get a public school to take you. In international school, same process. If they agree to take you, before 16, public school has to, the public system has to take you. After that, kind of like on your own, I would say. What is easier, the IB or the Abitur?
What are your goals?
That's a very good question.
What's the language? How are they German?
Well,
Do
I would
they want to
say
go to university in Germany or in other places in Europe?
yes. So
You
I
see?
think it's a very good question because the goal is university. Yes, and again, depends on which university. I can tell you that a lot of I'm here. I worked for a private university here in Berlin, and a lot of the students came from BBIS, and they studied only in English, only IB. Some of them were Germans. Their German wasn't as good as the English. So for university, they chose English-speaking programs because they couldn't handle the academic German. So this is something to take under consideration that afterwards, university, after international schools that speak only English, can be or only, or both languages. So the choice might be afterwards English-speaking programs, and usually it's in private universities. The public universities here, most of the bachelor degrees are in German. So this is something to consider. Yes.
Yeah, when they graduate from an IB diploma, that diploma, most of university in Europe accept students. Not all universities in Germany accept IB diploma, but they're catching up slowly. By the time your kid is going to graduate, probably more universities are going to accept that. They would need German to learn. That they are going to an international school and the German program is not that strong shouldn't stop you if that's the goal, to learn here for free in Germany later in a university. Because there are private tutors, there are language schools outside of school. If that's a strong goal, there are ways to pursue that goal, right? IB is harder, in my opinion, because it requires much more research on a higher level, on a university level. It requires a lot of critical thinking. It requires a lot of self-directed research and analysis. Abitur is, there's a right answer, right, to answer on a
Well,
test.
I think you can understand who's who here. But I have to give, a few different point of view of the Abitur, because Abitur in Germany, you don't necessarily do in Gymnasium. Gymnasium is mountains of pressure. Your child has to be prepared. German Gymnasium, they are private, they are public. The main point is that it's a lot of stress. They're expected to do their Abitur in year 12, and it's very stressful. If you look at the statistics of a lot of gymnasiums, very good statistics, 80%, 85%, and even higher get their Abitur. The secret is why? Because obviously not all students are that good. What they do a lot of times, obviously not everywhere, but in many cases, they just make the students, the weak students, leave. And then they have good statistics, which is, I think, true to most of the world, right? And there in the public system, you also have for the Abitur another option of Realschule. And Realschule or each state has different names for this, but also in Realschule, there's an option to do Abitur. And it's with much less stress. You do the Abitur in year 12 and 13, and it's totally acceptable. You can go to university afterwards. Some that finish, even from gymnasium, they go straight to Ausbildung without university because they thought they want university, but then they realize they're not. They're not interested. So for Abitur, there's also, with much less stress, in Realschule or another secondary schule, that school that there is for choice. Again, depends on the state, depends on the city, different systems of the school, of the public schools in different cities and different states. As for the Abitur, there is request that is being achieved in international schools or bilingual schools. For example, Metropolitan or Cosmopolitan in Berlin.
Sophie.
Anna Sophie is a private school, is not international. Yeah. It's private. They're very demanding. They're very demanding. They expect basically you do like one class does the IB, and another does the Abitur, and they're expected to finish the same year. So it would be kind of like the equivalent to gymnasium in that sense. And again, it's only in bilingual internationals like that you have to choose accordingly. Before we finish, if we don't have any other questions, so I want to add to the fees section something that we didn't say. We said, they are very expensive. There are a sibling discount, but also there are income related and income related fees. So then they measure your income. Sometimes you get Gutschein voucher from the state that can cover this specific school. Not many of those. I would say some of the schools that actually get the option to do income wise, not the best quality. And usually I can tell you also from experience that the admissions team in these schools not very patient, not very nice, because they have more applicants than the other schools. So you have to be prepared for this as well. So I think, we're going to wrap it up if we have no other questions. Thank you very much. We were happy to talk a little bit about international schools. And of course, if you need something that is more specific, we would be happy to give consultation time. And I'm putting in the chat our website, so you can check there and contact us. And also, of course, you have our email from the registration. So have a great evening, day, and night.
Thank you very much for listening, for being here. Happy to help. Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.